Welcome to Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang, your intel in the Philippine markets and the economy. In the headlines, President Marcos says 7 people linked to anomalous flood control projects have been arrested. His announcement comes as organizers prepare for the trillion-peso march on Sunday. Street protests have propelled the Philippines into the ranks of nations deemed high risk, says the latest report from the Economic Crime and Geopolitics Index. We speak with its proponent, senior fellow at the Millennium Project, Asanga Abeyakuna Sequeira, live from Washington, D.C. Meantime, the new finance chief, Frederico, says corrective actions must be taken to address the country's fiscal challenges and strengthen the government's financial position. President Marcos reports that 7 of 16 individuals with arrest warrants over the flood control mess have already been arrested. Among them, DPWH Mimaropa Regional Director Gerald Pacanan and Assistant Director Jean Ryan Altea. The president made the announcement this morning, 3 days after the Sandigan Bayan issued the arrest warrants in connection with an anomalous flood work in Oriental Mindoro. He advises those at large, including ex-Congressman Zaldico, to surrender.
7 na ang hawak ng ating otoridad. 2 susuko na. 7 ang mananatiling at large at kasama na dyan si Saldico. Sa lahat ng natitirang akusado, ang aking payo sa inyo ay sumuko na kayo. Huwag nyo nang antayin na habul-habulin pa kayo. Sa mga nagtatangkang tumulong sa pagtatago, mananagot din kayo.
One of the suspects in custody is DPWH Mimaropa engineer Dennis Abagon. The president says Abagon hid at a residence in Quezon City that he did not own. The NBI caught Abagon with his clothes packed and confiscated burner phones and newly bought SIM cards. Meanwhile, operatives from the Southern Police District served Cos arrest warrant last Saturday at his alleged penthouse in Taguig. But caretakers said the unit has been sealed for almost a month now. Co has not yet returned to the Philippines since July. The president's announcement comes as the organizers prepare for the 2nd trillion peso march protest on Sunday, November 30th. Philippines moves up the ranks of countries deemed high risk according to the Economic Crime and Geopolitics Index, mainly due to the continuing street protests against widespread government corruption allegations and public impatience over making those responsible accountable. The Philippines scored 71.65 out of 100 in the ECGI Index, a measure assessing corruption levels, the severity of economic crime, public response, and geopolitical pressures, all measuring how these forces shape political stability. This month's score is higher than the 69.2 last September, officially propelling the Philippines from medium to high-risk status. The index serves as a forward-looking early warning mechanism for governments, investors, and security analysts. With us now for more, live from Washington, D.C., the proponent of ECGI Index, Sri Lankan foreign policy analyst and senior fellow at the Millennium Project in Washington, D.C., Asanga Abeyakuna Sequeira. Good to see you, Asanga. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
So it was just in September that you described the Philippines score of 69.2 as critical stage, with a chance to act before the pressures intensify. So what changed between that early warning and today's high-risk classification?
It's actually the third variable which we measure the public response. We have 4 variables measuring the ECGI. First is the corruption perception CPI perception index. The second is the economic severity. And the third one is the public response. And the fourth is the geopolitical influence. The third, the public response, increased significantly from September to now because of the scale as well as the frequency of the protests. The last protest, we could see like more than 600,000 people gathered in Manila. So yet to see the frequency as well as the scale, how it would sort of public response were kind of deteriorating, we can see the trust, there's a huge trust deficit between the public as well as the government increasing. So that's the public response variable.
We're going to get a chance to measure scale again on November 30th for the second part of the trillion peso march. Could that tip the balance? What sort of measurements are we looking for that could tip the balance in your index?
Well, again, the public response, the same variable would, if it's going to be larger in size, in terms of magnitude, the impact, and also the government response for these protests. That's also very important in other countries, such as in Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Nepal, what we saw a pattern. So when the response is not sort of appreciated or by the protesters, and there is also a crash between the protesters as well as the government. So you see the turning point where the governments kind of lose control of the whole thing. So when you're in high risk, which is above 70, still Philippines in the borderline, 71. But this intensity of protests as well as the magnitude gives a sort of a warning to the government to immediately have a dialogue with the protesters as well as rectify these issues to stabilize mainly towards the political instability that is coming into the country.
Asanga, we have the benefit of history here. I'm showing a graphic that shows the countries that you mentioned, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and Nepal. Those have had the full cycle from uprising to new regime. And towards the further end, we have those undergoing the cycle itself, Myanmar, Indonesia, India, Pakistan, and Afghanistan. And all of them you have noted in the index as high risk. So where does the Philippines stand amongst these countries? And how different is it from the countries that we're seeing on the high risk?
Well, Philippines are in the protest cycle. So we have actually identified, because of the longevity of the protest, it's been happening for the month by month. So it's continuing. So what we see is Philippines, we see a significant rise, which is the 2.45 rise, which is quite higher than any other country in ASEAN. So that's kind of worrying to our end, because if the government does not take the measures, immediately arresting, as well as, since it's the corruption, it's systemic corruption within the government, where the lawmakers are questioned by the protesters. So here you have government pledging that you will arrest 37 lawmakers, as well as moving quickly towards accountability. So that's something that we need to monitor and see whether it would happen, because if you don't do that, you're getting into a much worse situation, I would say.
Well, 7 arrests have been made, and I made note of that just a couple of moments ago. Could that tip the needle or move the needle?
That would definitely help to win the public trust. But I believe that you need to sort of have more accountability measures, anti-corruption measures, without any political influence, the judiciary, how it functions. So these all have to be seen in the next few months, I would say, that, how to win the public trust. So what you need immediately is the governments to do that, to win the public trust, as well as it would impact the markets as well as the investor confidence, the FDIs and all that. So it's a holistic thing. So you would need immediately to have a dialogue with the protesters or the protest leaders who are in play, who are sort of making a main voice. Some of the countries we saw Gen Z leaders. Some of the countries we saw NGO who are the leaders who have come forward. So it's kind of a genuine dialogue. What you need, the government as well as the protesters, and here the president has become a champion, trying to sort of to show that he is working towards accountability, as well as transparency. So, which is a good sign. But you need to win the trust of the public. So that would improve the public response variable.
Let's pick up on those FDIs and pull up a graphic here because the foreign investment pledges have already fallen because of slower growth and the governance concerns. What specific channels, sectors, or industries do you expect will transmit this heightened political risk into the real economy of, say, the next maybe 12 to 24 months?
Well, the investor confidence is the most important. So here the FDIs will be impacted, such as in Sri Lanka, in Bangladesh, Nepal. So all of those countries had a huge impact to the economies. So it was the economic collapse that came in immediately after the political crisis. So what you see is you need to sort of strengthen the regulatory frameworks, the FDI confidence between for the investors to bring in more FDIs, as well as your currency. So you see sort of depreciation sort of month by month. When you are in the high risk zone, it will impact the FDIs as well as the currency, as well as the the market hesitations in infrastructure projects or procurement sectors. So it's more of a policy predictability, what the government would do, where the investors will have a question, so that the government would need to work on sort of correcting those issues.
And also work on the governance, long-term governance issues that really stem from dynastic politics, if you will, Asanga. How much does the open split between the Marcos and Duterte camps, especially as both to try to leverage the scandal politically, contribute to that risk profile?
Well, I think the governance, of course, like you rightly mentioned, so it's a more of a governance issue that I see. That is, you can see sort of the same sort of pattern that's what we see in Nepal, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka, sort of coming into a cycle of governance issues that would sort of impact. Regardless of, this regime or the next regime. So Philippines is in a very vulnerable position because of our fourth variable, the geopolitical influence is very high also in Philippines because of various external influences coming into the country, such as the South China Sea issues and many other problems that the Philippines is directly facing. So here is a very vulnerable country in terms of the fourth variable also. So that you have to keep in mind.
So to your point, the geopolitics, could the heightened political risk in Manila affect how allies and partners view the defense cooperation or the economic corridor projects with the Philippines? Or do you think that those are largely insulated from domestic governance turmoil for now?
No, I think the reason that we brought in the geopolitical influence into the economic crime index was to see the larger picture, how the geopolitical influence, for example, the external funding captures the political elites in a country. So it's more of an elite capture in certain countries such as Sri Lanka or in other places. But if you read the recent sort of the report which is out from the U.S.-China Economic Commission, which was released 2 days ago, Philippines is the country in ASEAN. It's been highlighted more than any other ASEAN countries. So you see a significant weight given in a report such as the Commission report on Philippines. We kind of agree to a certain extent of what the Commission report has sort of highlighted on Philippines because of the external influences.
Just as a final point, Asanga, for policymakers in Manila who may feel that this new label is unfair or alarmist, what is your message to them about why this warning is being issued now and how it should be used?
Well, we try to, the whole message of the ECGI is to immediately stabilize the country. We don't want any nation to go through, such as Sri Lanka or Nepal or Bangladesh, because what you have, the full cycle, is really worrisome. Because I served as a technical advisor to IMF doing the work for Sri Lanka's diagnostic work. So you could read the entire report, which is available in the IMF. So it is very worrisome because it takes about several months to stabilize the country, and then few more years for the next elections. So we want to avoid that. So to avoid that, you need to have a frank discussions immediately with the protesters. Work on the accountability, on the transparency, as well as stabilize the nation. So that's what's important. That's what the lawmakers should do.
And I hope you're listening to us. Thank you so much for your insights. I much appreciated Asanga Abea Kun Sekera of the ECGI Index joining us live from Washington, D.C. Well, newly appointed Finance Secretary Frederico says corrective actions are now necessary to address the country's fiscal challenges and stabilize the government's financial position. Go made the push during his visit to the Bureau of Treasury, where he was briefed on its core functions, accomplishments, and priority projects. The new finance chief also emphasized the need for realistic revenue targets and possible budget adjustments, citing pressure on collections. He also expressed confidence in the Treasury's expertise to identify areas for savings and urged its team to map out measures to optimize spending. And you're watching Money Talks. We take a look at the markets when we come back. Plus, the legendary Solidaridad bookshop founded by national artist F. Shanil Hussein now has a new owner. Keep it here on One News. Welcome back to Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang. The headlines from around the globe. In Brazil, UN climate talks reached a compromise deal, pledging more funds for countries facing extreme weather events, but making no plans to phase out fossil fuels. The watered-down resolution drew the ire of countries like Colombia and Panama, but gave oil-producing nations such as Russia and Saudi Arabia a victory. Brazil said it would lead an independent effort to transition from fossil fuels, but would not have the force of international law. In India, Prime Minister Narendra Modi says his government has agreed to restart trade talks with Canada. Both nations are on a standstill after Ottawa accused New Delhi of killing a Canadian Sikh separatist in 2023. Canada, aiming to be less reliant on the U.S. and India, are hoping to double bilateral trade to $50 billion by 2030. And in the U.S., Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is confident that the country will not enter into a recession in 2026. This despite the 43-day government shutdown, causing an $11 billion permanent hit to the economy. Bessent tells NBC's Meet the Press Americans will soon benefit from the Trump administration's massive spending package, which include permanent tax cuts. And U.S. markets clawed back some of their losses last Friday after a Fed official made the case for an interest rate cut. The Dow and the S&P 500 up by a 1% each. The Nasdaq rose by 0.8%. Investors are bracing for market volatility as the year draws to a close with uncertainties over the Fed's policy decision and an AI bubble linger. Benchmark 10-year Treasury yields ticked down 4.062%, and gold prices jumped to $4,076 per ounce. U.S. futures point to gains when the markets open later tonight Manila time. The Nasdaq is up by 0.5%, S&P 500 rises 0.33%, and the Dow climbs by 0.2%. As for the Asian markets, they're trading mixed this Monday, with Australia's ASX 200 and South Korea's Kospi both up by 1% each, but Japan's Nikkei 225 down over 2%. And a quick check on the Philippine market, see how we're trading at the start of this week. PSEI opens this Monday slightly lower by about 0.2%, 5,987. The stock market inched closer to the 6,000 level, rising last Friday by over 1%. Investors went on a buying spree after learning that external pressures on the economy were easing. Mike Ricafort of RCBC says investors are cautiously trading this week with the release of fiscal and trade data and the massive protest set on November 30. As for the Philippine peso, it opened today a tad stronger, 58.83 to the dollar. The peso strengthened last Friday by 21 centavos to close at 58.855 against the greenback. Traders are expecting the peso to move sideways as they await signals on the Fed's easing path. The 10-year government bond yields ticked up to 5.896%. And in corporate news, Metro Pacific Tollways Corp starts bidding to select contractors for the first phase of its 8 billion peso Lapu-Lapu Expressway or LLEX expansion. MPTC President and CEO Gilbert Santa Maria says the project's feasibility study is complete and the alignment set, though parts of it will run above an existing road. The project will extend the Cebu-Cordova Link Expressway to improve traffic flow and eventually connect to the Mactan-Cebu International Airport, as well as Metropolitan Cebu through new ramps. It is expected to be completed by the fourth quarter of 2027. A planned backdoor listing for Meralco's MGen Renewable Energy, or MGreen, will have to wait until 2027 as the company consolidates assets and completes its flagship project. Meralco Chairman Manuel V. Pangilinan said MGreen's entry into the PSE through SPNEC can only move once. The 200 billion peso Terra Solar project begins energization in the late 2026. He noted they need those revenues reflected first before relaunching an IPO. For now, Meralco plans to move its renewable projects under SPNEC and set up a share swap positioning MGreen as the group's main vehicle for solar and wind development. MPTC, Meralco, and Signal, the owner of this channel, are all part of the MVP Group. And DigiPlus Interactive Corp is working to win back high-value players as it tries to rebound in the fourth quarter. DigiPlus President Andy Tsui says customer service teams are actively reconnecting with top spenders, hoping to lift activity during the year-end bonus season. The gaming operator is pushing harder after its third quarter net income fell to 1.7 billion pesos. That's less than half of last year's level, following regulators' order for e-wallets to remove links to online gambling platforms. Batangas 1st District Representative Leandro Leviste has purchased the legendary Solidaridad bookshop founded by national artist F. Chanil Jose. The billionaire-turned-congressman says the goal is to preserve the bookshop's legacy and keep Asia's biggest little bookshop alive for the next generation of readers. Leviste thanked the Jose family for entrusting him with the landmark, saying he hopes they remain involved to maintain the spirit and history of the store. The place is long known for its unmatched Filipiniana book collection and as a space for writers, academics, cultural workers, and literary greats. And before we go, I wish to express my gratitude to the Asia's Pinnacle Awards for this year's recognition conferred during the ceremony in Manila last Friday. Here's the report from our mobile journalist Fatima Baduria.
The Asia's Pinnacle Awards has officially named distinguished industry leaders. Among the awardees is one news anchor and business journalist Cathy Yang. This year's Asia's Pinnacle Awards honored 58 industry leaders during the ceremony held in Manila. Money Talks and Thought Leaders anchor and Signal head of programs Cathy Yang was named Asia's Pinnacle of Influence in Business Journalism and Public Communications. Accepting the award on Friday, Yang expressed her gratitude for having been recognized as a notable journalist in the business field.
Money is everybody's business, and that includes the taxes we pay, the wages we earn, and the investments we grow.
She says she is using the shows she hosts as a platform to propagate news that the people need.
We'd like to have business that actually invites investors to come and invest in our country. But we're at a point where we really have to soul search and really bring up difficult conversations. And that requires journalism that really focuses on what is meaningful and what is factual and also what is essential. Gusto kong i-dedicate at ialay doon sa teams na talagang tumutulong kada araw.
Other notable individuals were also honored, including Philippine National Security Advisor Eduardo Año, former Chief Justice Teresita Leonardo de Castro, and other business leaders.
Each awardee embodies excellence, leadership, and a deep commitment to making a meaningful difference.
The awards highlight the transformation brought by individuals and groups to society and inspire people to lead with purpose. Kapatid, mobile journalist Fatima Badurya, we are One News.
My thanks to the team here at Money Talks and the thought leaders and to the leadership of Signal and Media Quest for supporting the good we do for our country. That is it for Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang. Catch us again tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Kapatid, we are One News. All sides, all the time. Have a great day ahead.